How many March Madness teams is the Big 12 actually going to get? And why on earth is West Virginia not one of them? This is a bonus episode of Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12 bonus episode. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. I joined the crew at ESPN Central Texas this morning. We talked about your favorite team and if they're in March Madness, and your favorite women's team and your favorite baseball. We talked about a lot of stuff. So I thought, you know what, let's record it and give it to you as a bonus episode. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. Oh, and by the way, our Everydayer Club, ad-free, Locked On Big 12, and a Discord. Use code MARCH right now, all caps MARCH. Get your first month free. Head to lockedonbig12.supercast.com for ad-free Locked On Big 12. All right, bonus episode time. This episode's free for you. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. Let's go, boys.
Appreciate you as always. You're doing a great job and so proud of you as well. And let's start with Big 12 women's tournament. First and foremost, before we get into what happened in the games, the floor. How impressed or how unimpressed was Drake Toll on the glass floor at Kansas City?
Look, Ward, the SEC is paying players in football $10 million, and in the Big Ten, they're winning national championships three in a row. In the Big 12, we have a TV for a basketball court. I just think there are other issues we should be figuring out, that aren't the basketball court. It got some publicity. I think most of the country looked at it and said that's pretty unnecessary. So I remain without a strong opinion, but it just seems like something that no one was asking for. The Big 12 did it anyway, and another ploy to try to get more eyeballs on the conference that just didn't exactly work as the league probably wanted it to.
Drake, you look at West Virginia getting the title in the Big 12 over the weekend against TCU. Maybe a little bit of surprise, maybe an upset, but really maybe not the way West Virginia's been playing.
Yeah, West Virginia is one of the hottest teams in the Big 12 and now one of the hottest teams in the country. The fact they avenged a couple of losses to TCU this season just shows what makes them so good. It's their ability to adjust. And have they ever? They scored 118 points against Cincinnati a few games ago. And this is a West Virginia team now on a 6-game win streak. Ward, you and I talk about it quite a bit. We have a few times in the past about how the Big 12 tournament or these conference tournaments don't always matter much for certain teams. For West Virginia, they wanted to prove, hey, we can beat a top 10 caliber team like TCU. We need to get that monkey off our back and grab that true big-time marquee win. Now, they have a couple of them. They won at Iowa State, but that win was diluted over the course of the year. You find out Iowa State wasn't as good as we thought. This TCU team is top notch, and West Virginia beating them is a massive feather in their cap going into the NCAA tournament. Now, can they contend with UCLA? Can they contend with Texas or UConn? That's a much different question. But for West Virginia, a massive momentum bump going into the NCAA tournament. Super proud of what the Mountaineers have done. I know the entire state of West Virginia is behind their women.
Baylor women's had the double bye, and they took a loss to Colorado 62-53 in their first game of the Big 12 tournament. Drake, how concerning is that for Baylor women's basketball?
Yeah, this was a Baylor team, Jacob, and it's a good question because you asked us on the men's or the women's side of, hey, who wants to win in the Big 12 tournament and who knows what's stacked against them? I think Baylor would have had to have won the entire weekend in Kansas City to be able to host the postseason of March Madness. And so they said, hey, instead of really pushing ourselves to go win a couple games here when it won't matter and it won't change our seeding and we'll still be probably a 5 seed in this whole thing, let's just go home. Let's lose to Colorado. We know who we are. We know what we want to do in March Madness. Let's end this thing right here. Take some rest. And if rest is what you need right now, if you don't need excess wins in Kansas City or wins that don't really matter toward where you're going to be seated, then just go home and rest. Do the thing that's going to help you win in March Madness when it actually matters. For West Virginia, you get a monkey off your back. They didn't really need to rest up with injury issues. They wanted to go win to prove they could beat a top 10 team. For Baylor, you need to, sometimes it's best to say, hey, if in our interest, in the interest of our basketball team, we're going to take a nap, and that's going to help us win when it matters most. Baylor did that. I'm not that concerned.
Drake Toll with us here on the Press Box on ESPN Central Texas. The men's tournament is set. Baylor now set to take on Arizona State right here on ESPN Central Texas tomorrow at 11:30. And for the Bears, I mean, you've got a gauntlet laying in front of you. You got Arizona State, which you beat earlier in Waco by a couple, and then you get through that. You got Iowa State, and then hello Texas Tech to get to Friday if you possibly can. For the Bears, it is. I know this is a gauntlet laying in front of them, but if they can get those 3 wins, Drake, do they return to a bubble team all of a sudden?
You have to. If you're beating Arizona State, who themselves were listed on the bubble in the last couple of weeks, if you beat Iowa State, Milan Momcilovic, Taman Lipsy, a team that's ebbed and flowed in and out of the top 5 all season long, then you beat Texas Tech, who is the giant slayer. Tech will lose to Arizona State or lose to BYU and then beat a top 5 team. It's what the Red Raiders have done all year. And especially if you beat Arizona, Baylor could lose in the Big 12 championship to, say, Houston or Kansas, and you still you just knocked off 3 top 12 teams in the span of probably 3 or 4 days. That at least deserves a nod toward March Madness and a swing into the NCAA tournament, because you've proven you can beat some of the best teams in the country. Now, Baylor's proven it can lose to some of the best teams or worst teams in the country. And I think a boost like this, albeit needed, necessary for them to make it, still may not be enough in the eyes of the committee. It is for me. Knocking off 3 top 12 teams in the span of a weekend is that should get you in. But for Baylor, if it doesn't, I'm not surprised. You had to do more in the regular season. As I look up and downward at this bracket, here's what really surprises me about where we sit in bracketology in the Big 12. West Virginia bought themselves the bye. They're the 7 seed in the Big 12 tournament. Ward, BYU is the 10 seed. If you ask a lot of bracketologists, they would tell you this BYU team that finished 3 spots below West Virginia in Big 12 conference play, that this BYU team is a 6 seed overall in the NCAA tournament. If you ask people, said, hey, what about Iowa State? They'd tell you that Iowa State is a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Iowa State, the 5th best team in the Big 12. BYU, the 10th best team in the Big 12. Both those teams are well seeded in March. West Virginia, the 7th best team in the conference, isn't even on the bubble. I think we're missing a lot of big things here. Baylor's going to carry a big storyline. Cincinnati could too if they win, if they get hot. Colorado or Oklahoma State could have a couple big wins. The thing that I'm watching this week is West Virginia, because no one's talking about them, and they should be. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Boom, boom, boom. With the number 1 overall pick in the 5 Hour Energy draft, Drake Toll selects strawberry banana. That's my favorite one. It's so good, dog. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. 18 different flavors to choose from. What I love about it is not that acidic. I don't like the aspartame and the acid and the taste and all that of the regular jazz, the old jazz. I like the new school, beautiful, hit my tongue and make it nice. 5 Hour Energy. Strawberry banana. You can get it at Amazon or at 5hourenergy.com. 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. 5 Hour Energy shots. Today's show is also brought to you by Indeed. Email me right now, Drake at thesavannahbananas.com, if you want to be the next intern of Locked On Big 12 and run the Locked On Big 12 Twitter account. I don't want to run it. I don't, please. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing. Indeed Sponsored Jobs is going to help you make a new hire. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast, Indeed.com/podcast, Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Outside of West Virginia, and you mentioned some other schools, do you have another sneaky favorite that could really turn some heads in the Big 12 tournament?
Yeah, I'm hopeful, actually, to see a team like, it'd be cool to see BYU put it all together and prove, okay, we can win consistently without Richie Saunders. It'd be nice to see Arizona honestly run the table and prove, hey, we're a 1 seed and we're the best team in college basketball, and you're all about to find out, from Brayden Burries to Koa Peat. But I think Baylor's squarely in that category with enough talent from Yesufu to Cam Carr that they've got an opportunity to win games and go all the way to the championship of this thing. Cincinnati, if they get hot at the right time, they get through Utah, they get through UCF. Both of those are very winnable for the Bearcats. They could meet up with an Arizona team that says, hey, we want to go home. We want some rest. We don't need to be here. We don't need to win this thing. And then watch out for Colorado. They're playing a lot better basketball, and they've been off the radar entirely, but they've got a leg up to beat Oklahoma State. Then TCU is winnable for Colorado. Kansas, with or without Darren Peterson, they've lost some big games. I could see Colorado making a run to the semifinals of this thing. I don't see them winning it, but they could make some noise for sure.
When you look at this Big 12 tournament, I mean, who do you foresee in that championship game if everything was to go chalk?
Yeah, I'd be very surprised, honestly. I do think most of this will go chalk. I'd be very surprised if we do not see the likes of Arizona and Houston meeting in the Big 12 title. And how fun would that be? The number 1 team of the conference versus the number 2 team of the conference, a squad who's a lock for a 1 seed in Arizona, and a Houston team that I think can once again go to the Final Four and win the national championship this year. The veteran leadership they have mixed in with the Kingston Flemings of the world make Houston a very dangerous team. I want to see Houston and Arizona square off in a top 5 matchup in the Big 12 tournament championship and give themselves a glimpse, another look into the crystal ball of what a Final Four game would look like, another glimpse in the crystal ball of what an Elite 8 matchup with Illinois could possibly look like. You get that in the Big 12 tournament, and Ward, again, those 2 teams could lose in the first round, and I think they're still fine. They get more rest. You need rest after a Big 12 gauntlet. But if you go to the Big 12 championship, it's just going to be fun it will be fun for everybody involved to watch 2 elite teams play like Arizona and Houston. I'm hopeful we get that matchup.
So go ahead, Aaron.
Drake got Baylor softball up and down during non-conference, but gets conference started with a huge sweep of Iowa State.
Yeah, this Baylor softball team is going to give me fits all year long. And at 17-6, this is the same softball team that lost to San Diego State by a run and then turned around and returned the favor 11-2. A softball team that went toe-to-toe with Clemson, who's elite, but lost a series to McNeese State. And now McNeese is one of the better mid-majors you'll find out there. But then they sweep Iowa State, and they look pretty darn good doing it. They've got a very young team. They're loaded with sophomores, juniors. Amber Tovin's kind of the senior leader that is helping bring them all up. I thought the blowout win on Friday, that first game of the doubleheader, was impressive. And then the way to grit it out on Sunday, to hold a lead, to rally, take a lead, hold a lead, was impressive for Glenn Moore's group. So, yeah, the fact they're already approaching 20 wins this season for a squad so young is impressive to me. That they've outplayed themselves. They've lost games I thought they would win. They've won games I thought they would lose. And so happy with what Baylor softball has done. My sister, full scholarship there, playing for Baylor. Hey, she tore her PCL 4 or 5 months ago. She'll be back next season, redshirting this year. But man, Aaron, you ought to see her hold a clipboard. She is so good at holding the clipboard right now.
Going into the Big 12 baseball season, I know TCU was widely regarded as the favorite. Well, they've taken a couple steps backwards. Is there a team just that goes straight to your mind, Drake, that is your favorite to win the Big 12 or at least be out in front?
Well, I would have said Arizona has a great chance to do so preseason, but then Arizona's 6-9. They're a little bit better now, but I am completely surprised that Arizona and TCU are not toward the top of the Big 12 conference. And we should be talking more about what West Virginia is doing in Big 12 baseball. And overall, we don't talk a ton of college baseball in the grand scheme of things. I mean, today alone, right, with Mike Evans going to the San Francisco 49ers, there are a million storylines out there that trump Big 12 baseball. But if you get into the nitty-gritty of this conference, West Virginia has been at the top of the league pretty consistently now, dating back 5, 6, 7 years. West Virginia is a squad that if I had to buy somebody right now, I'm going to keep riding with the Mountaineers. And I do think Texas Tech, they've had a rough couple of years, that they'll rally and be in that mix. Oklahoma State has got a great program. Arizona State is solid. I'm still holding out hope for Cincinnati. We'll see if they're fool's gold. But right now, I'm going to give the flowers to West Virginia because they've been up there for a few years. This could be a year where they win it outright in the regular season.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, host of Westwood One Morning Show, with us on the Press Box on ESPN Central Texas. And Drake, the Indoor National Championships coming up this weekend in Fayetteville. How do you think the Big 12 fares in that?
I think the Big 12 is in a great spot. And that is, again, it's just the depth of this conference, and it's the ability of this league to buy into sports at the Olympic level. So you're saying, hey, football is what that brings you the most money. Go win in football and make more money. And the Big 12 says, hey, what about track or tennis? What about women's basketball? What about these sports that aren't necessarily going to make us all the money, but we can still compete in them and be one of the best conferences in all of America? That's what they're doing in basketball, at least. So for the Big 12, being at the indoor, this is another opportunity to prove we have invested in all sports. It's not just football in this league. And that is another nod, Ward, to this conference, unlike the SEC, wanting to win at all levels. The SEC values football. They value the heck out of football because they know it's where the money comes from. The Big 12 wants to prove, hey, once the government or somebody rights the ship of college athletics, it will have paid off to have invested in Olympic sports. The Big 12 is going to showcase that again this weekend.
Real quick, I want to go back to basketball. Baylor basketball did end the regular season on the men's side on a high note against Utah. And for Scott Drew, gets his 500th career win. Just a huge milestone and a huge plus side with a season that has just been with so many bumps and a year where he's had to totally rebuild his roster from the ground up.
Yeah, anybody who is poking holes in Scott Drew right now, look, I as a Baylor fan, and Aaron could tell you this better than anybody, there is some level of safety that you grant yourself when you win a national championship in what was formerly maybe the worst men's basketball program in America. When you go to the pinnacle and the summit, I'm honestly, I know it was 2021, I'm still riding that high. Like, Scott Drew can miss the tournament next year, and I'm still not going to question Scott Drew because he's been Baylor. He is, for the last 2 decades, he is Baylor. His ability to adapt and adjust is it's a question mark right now because Scott this year didn't win and didn't build an elite Big 12 product out of the transfer portal, and NIL is a question mark. Doug McNamee, the new athletic director, will have a big say in how Baylor divvies that out and how they attack that moving forward. But for Scott Drew, that's the last guy I point a finger at or ask questions of, just because he's proven to you and to me and to everybody I can win a national championship. Now, since then, hasn't made it out of the first weekend of March. I get that. And I know Baylor fans are by and large frustrated because it looked like Baylor was becoming a basketball school. But the brand is still there. The championship trophy is still in the halls in Waco. And that's something that Scott has bought himself really a lifetime contract over. And I'm hopeful that Baylor fans rally around this team in the offseason and they build yet another contender next year. And this season is just a blip on the map as Scott continues to figure out the portal and NIL. I mean, he lost his entire team. The fact that they're even above 500 says a lot about what Scott Drew was able to scrounge together. It may sound weird, but this is another moment for me as an alumni to say, hey, I'm a proud Baylor Bear on Monday, March 9th because of what Scott Drew has continued to build. Hey, today's show is brought to you by Mazda. Yeah, Mazda, man, something about it. It makes me happy that Mazda has jumped on with Locked On, namely during a time such as this where the big games are upon us. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen, the BYU Cougars reminded us of what it takes to raise the bar this week. It's the extra effort off the court, dialing in every detail, giving that extra fire, that grit, the eye never quit. We put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. And the BYU Cougars proved that against Texas Tech this week. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you with Mazda.
Drake, spring football starting across the country this week, and some Big 12 teams getting into action as well. Who has the most crucial spring in front of them for Big 12 football?
I think this is Houston. And reason being, they were superb last season. Overlooked, but superb. Had a really good campaign in 2025. BYU Texas Tech, they're returning a lot of starting production. Texas Tech, combined with the transfer portal, if you count the amount of players on their roster who started in the FBS last year, they have 23 starters. There are only 22 guys on the football field, but because of the portal and the dudes they poached out of other programs who were starting elsewhere, they have 23 FBS starters. I don't need to. I know Texas Tech. I know BYU. I don't necessarily know Houston. I want to figure, and here's a piece of why. I need to figure out if Houston is that fun team that wins 8 games a year. Are they just TCU? Are they the 10-3 team that won 10 games that one time under Willie Fritz and then regressed to the mean and went 7-5? Or are they a Big 12 championship team with Connor Wegman at quarterback next year? Their schedule is favorable enough. Non-conference, Southern, Georgia Southern, Oregon State. I mean, they're going to be A-OK. Even in conference, I think they've got a leg up to beat Oklahoma State, Kansas State, UCF. That Texas Tech game is huge, but they should beat Cincinnati, Colorado, and Baylor. Houston, I've got some question marks over. They need to prove this year, hey, we're not just hanging around and winning games to win games. We're winning games to win championships. The Cougars, if they have the right offseason, will be in Arlington next year.
And one more quick question for you, Drake. I know the Big 12 championships this week for basketball. I want to peel back to that. How many teams do the Big 12 after this tournament get into the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's such a brutal question because I think it should be more. It should be closer to 10 right now. And that may sound crazy, but that's the treatment the SEC is getting. Texas Tech is obviously a lock. BYU is a lock. Houston, Arizona, those are locks. Iowa State is a lock. I think TCU at this point should squarely be in. Cincinnati needs they have a little bit of work to do. Kansas is there. UCF probably has a little bit of work to do, although I was surprised that they aren't a lock. They just kind of the bottom fell out on them when it mattered the most. Then West Virginia. They've got a couple games to win, need to win a game or two, but I think they should be in. There are still question marks, a vague question mark on TCU, certainly on Cincinnati, UCF, West Virginia. Man, in the best conference in America, your teams that are sitting at 9-9 who are 500, they should make it in over an 8-10 SEC team, over a 7-11 Big 10 team or ACC SEC squad. The Big 12 just not getting that treatment. I think we're squarely at, I know 7 are getting in. It's 8, 9, 10 that should or could, but they've got some work to do.
Drake Toll, what's coming up on Westwood One Morning Show and Locked On Big 12?
Yeah, Ward, I kind of alluded to it earlier, man. It's some crazy stuff happening in the National Football League. We'll be all over that at Westwood One Sports, and it's a great opportunity for a Big 12 guy to have a national platform. You have 300 affiliates across the country to talk Big 12, to be a mouthpiece nationally for the Big 12 Conference. It's always for the Baylor Bears, which is always an honor to do every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then on Locked On Big 12, man, a lot of murmurs about how, especially after Friday when everybody met in D.C., how the Big 12 and the ACC stay afloat, whether or not a merger is coming, whether or not a merged TV rights deal is on the table. So a lot of that on Locked On Big 12.
Drake Toll with us in the press box here on ESPN Central Texas. Drake, always appreciate the time. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next Monday.
The pleasure. Thank you, Ward.
There he goes, Drake Toll with us here on the press box. Stay right there. More to come on ESPN Central Texas.
Good dudes, man. I like them a lot. Good dudes. Get a little taste of women's basketball in there. Track. Yeah. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.